One thing that Nick did say at the end of his video, which I think is important, you look at the trees, you look at these trees over here, you look at the blown out highlights, and as you go through all of that, you start to think, maybe this is going to be still pretty similar to that X3. Nick over at 360 Rumors is a beta tester for Insta360, and they just dropped a video about the new product, but they can't say what it's called. I'm calling it the X4. They're under an NDA. This is the Better Buy. I'm the Better Buy guy here to give you the information you need on the stuff that you want so you can make the better buy, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. So jump in the comments. Let me know what you think about the stuff that they point out, and then what you think is coming in this new camera. I'm doing a full deep dive right now in this video. At the end of this, we're going to go through the promo for the new camera. I screen recorded it at 4K, and there's some things that I noticed going through it slowly that I think people are going to care about. Specifically, spoiler alert, we're still struggling with the mushy background in this footage. The X3 had this issue, and I think the X4, even with all the new pixels and all that stuff, is going to be a little bit less than what we might be hoping for. So let's dive into it. Again, Nick is under an NDA, so he couldn't share much, but one thing he did say, his own personal opinion was, this is the most important camera that the Insta360 is going to be releasing. Obviously, the X3 was their highest selling camera. This should bring in the most revenue for the company, and he did say that he thinks or sees this camera as a prosumer camera, which is interesting. I think in general, yes, it kind of blends those two markets, because at the true Pro 360 level, you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars, but you do have professionals in their own little spheres or demographics, like whether it's a professional athlete or professional musician or things like that, that might want some 360 quality footage, but aren't going to spring for the higher one. This is going to fit that demographic. So I would basically agree with that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think this is a prosumer camera, or do you think you really, if you're a pro, you got to go to that higher level? One thing that Nick said, which I thought was interesting, is he prefaced it with everything is increasing in price, and he thinks that Insta360 has done a good job of keeping the price point lower. Basically, this thing's going to be more expensive than I think we were expecting, but not as expensive as it could have been. Jump in the comments, let me know what's the price point that's your cutoff. You're like, you know what, if this is $6.99, I can't do it, I'm out. If it's $4.99, I'm in. If it's $5.99, I'm gonna have to really think about it. Like, what price point for you is the draw line that you're like, nope, I can't do it anymore? And what's the guaranteed I'm getting it at that price point kind of thing? I'm curious. For me, $4.99 is a guarantee. $5.99, you know, it's going to be a stretch for me. I don't know if I can justify the $5.99 price point. So we'll have to see. The quality would have to be really exceptional above the X3, I think, at that point, when you're starting to get into that $5.99, $6.99 price point. One thing that Nick did say at the end of his video, which I think is important, just to note if you're someone that just got an Insta360 product, especially if it's like the X3, he said, keep it in the box. He said, wait till you see this thing drop and then maybe decide if you really want to keep the one that you have or go for the new one. I think the only reason that you wouldn't go for the new one is price point. Is if it's more expensive than you were willing to go, then you're just going to stick with what you have. So now, I do want to go through this footage, this promo footage. This is actually very interesting for me. So let's dive into it. Here we go. Like I said, I screen recorded this. You can see right here when this thing first starts. Obviously, we switch over to the 8K, but if we back up just a little bit, you can kind of clearly see that's the 5.7K that we've already had. All right. This is blurred out enough that I'm really not sure what we're getting. I would assume this is that 30 frames per second or 50, 30, and so on. But then, and you'll see, watch what happens when it switches to the 8K. We switch over to what I believe is 30 frames per second. I don't know what these other two numbers are, though. This is so small. It's kind of like, why would you even have it there? Let me know in the comments what you think that is. Very curious about that one. Now, this thing obviously digitizes her, and we have the thing spread out to let us know that this is going to be a 360 camera. This quality looks exceptional. Even at the 4K on my screen, like, this looks really, really good. It spins around, but then something interesting happens here, because the way that they did her hand, this really looks like a green screen effect to me. It looks like this has been cut out, and I think they're cheating a little bit with the way that they did this, the way that it makes it look. When you look at kind of like some of the highlights over here in the corner with the trees, you can kind of see that standard stuff. I think what happened is the scene itself is filmed with the 360 camera, and then they've superimposed her hand to make that hand look much higher quality, because if you've worked with the X3 footage before, you know that you don't tend to get all of that together. you get some of it. You either get the hand really nice in focus or you get that, but the two together doesn't seem to work. If they're actually pulling that off, I'm going to be super impressed. So I think that's superimposed, and then they're going to punch in to this shot. Now, as you go through, obviously this is all editing, so I'm not really worried about this. We can just let it play. And then we get to this shot. I don't know, how they did this shot necessarily, but they back out to here. So if we look, I think that they're just switching camera angles on us. Maybe not. Actually, no, it does look like from what they are doing that this camera was just right behind this snowboarder. All right. Now we can see, if you look at the shadows, and 360, if you know 360, you know the shadows. That's what we're looking for here. You can see kind of the shape of the camera right here. And so it looks like we're dealing with a pretty similar form factor with this new camera. As we pop through here, they're spinning it around. You've done that. If you've done 360, you know. It looks pretty similar. So obviously shadows are going to be a little misleading, but everything's looking pretty good there as far as what we're used to. And then obviously we have this cutscene. This scene, the first time I saw it, I thought, you know what? This shows kind of like the weakness of the 360 when you zoom out and stuff starts to get a little mushy, a little grainy. And obviously they punch through this pretty quickly. Like he's, I don't think really ever in focus, or at least when you start to look at what's going on there. Now this is fast paced and we are dealing with a little bit lower lighting than some of the other scenes, but we're hardly in this scene as you look right there. I mean, it goes right through it. Now this is obviously going to be some exceptionally good lighting when we're dealing with the desert sunlight and the movement and everything. This is meant to show those frame rates. The question is, are they giving us that 60 frames per second at the 5.7K? I don't know if they're actually doing that for us. If you look through what's happening right here, you can see kind of like the grains of the sand. They're not doing a great job of letting us see slow motion there though, because it's so quick. If you're going to show us slow motion, let us actually see it. So I think hiding that is interesting. Watch this here. You can see, again, kind of the graininess there. We're dealing with a little bit lower light, but not a bad shot overall. I'll be curious to see what and again, this is the kind of experience that most people are going to get. Even if the footage is really high quality on the other end, when you're watching it on YouTube or you're watching it on your phone, like, what is the quality really going to be? Now this is obviously super bright lighting. We've got that the nice look going here. This is that, they've got that thing where it connects into the rope. You can see it over there. So we're going to keep punching through here. Overall, I think that looks pretty good. This shot, I think, is just kind of trying to make it look that consumer level. But again, it's so short. Like you hardly even see it and you're over to this. And I think this is where they're hiding some of the downfalls of the 360. How good is that image quality really? Everything's going pretty quick. Once again, we're in this shot, we're out of this shot so fast. Now, if you look over here, right, they've got a camera over here. This one is white, it looks like, unless it's hidden. And I don't know if anybody ever even caught that. Like, this is the first time that I'm noticing it. In this shadow right here, we've got a 360 camera and it looks white right there. We'll have to punch into that later, but that is very interesting actually. I never noticed that camera there. Everything moved so quickly. But you can see the person up here, and then obviously we've got the people in the background all through there. I wonder what they were doing with that. So then obviously this person pulls it up through, and you've kind of got what's going on there. Now, obviously, we've got, once again, all of these shots are in super fast motion, which definitely hides any of the issues. You're in it pretty quick, in and out pretty quickly. I don't just mean they're short. I mean, like, everything's moving, which is going to make it a little more difficult to judge. But then, obviously, this guy's popping through here, and we get that endless possibility screen, which is interesting. Let's see what this rotation is. Now this shot, I thought this shot was interesting because at first glance, it's like, oh, it's low light, it's doing better in low light. And I'm sure that it is doing a little better in low light, but there's a lot of light in this scene. And when you start to look at the highlights here and the shadows there, you start to lose, the quality of the image. Now this guy is in great focus. I definitely say they did a nice job nailing his focus, but then once again, you're punching in and we're gone. So I do love that feature. The editing of a 360 camera is a lot of fun, so that's nice. And they've updated the studio. We'll do a video on that in the future. If you're enjoying this, please like down below. Now this shot, this is the one that I want to talk about. Again, if you are enjoying this video, please like, comment. This is meant to be a conversation with all of us 360 people having fun, diving down into this stuff, considering what is this tech going to give us, how far can it go, and this is the shot that really made me think, what am I really going to be getting quality-wise? Because when you look at this is a normal daylight shot, closer to what I think most people are going to be getting. And you look at the trees, you look at these trees over here, you look at the blown out highlights, you look at the granular stuff on the balls, you look at the shadows, and as you go through all of that, you start to think, maybe this is going to be still pretty similar to that X3. When you look over here at her shirt and just kind of what's going on there, or his shirt, I think that's a guy, yeah, it's a guy. These balls coming towards us, if this is slow motion, right? I've seen slow motion at a much higher quality, so it's just interesting. Obviously, that ball hits the camera, and then we're punched in here, and now we're moving through to the end. So I think overall, this stuff is kind of, they're punching through this so fast, it's hard to keep up with. That's a kind of a nice shot. And then they're obviously doing the little clips and everything, but everything is white, well lit. They're setting you up for that little globule droplet here as this punches through, and then we transition into the underwater shot. So underwater is going to be a different animal altogether, but obviously she's pretty near to the surface. We've got good lighting coming down, a nice background that's going to help you kind of like show the difference here. The 8K era is here, and that is the end of the video. So let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please like the video, comment, help me out, help me help you. I want to continue to build out this kind of content, help people out. I liked having it on the side there so we could do this together. And I think that this should be really helpful for someone considering whether or not they want to jump into this little market and whether or not the new one is the one for them. If you have been here for this moment, please come join the Better Buy community. If you go to thebetterbuyguy.com, we're having conversations like this. If you're already in the community, thanks for jumping in the comments, having the conversation in there. I love being able to do the polls and all the interactive stuff. This is fun. I'd love to get to the point where like I could have just given away one of these cameras this month with the launch. Like that would have been a blast. The community's not there yet, but that is my intention. I want to grow it to that. So once again, go jump into the Better Buy, thebetterbuyguy.com. I'm doing a giveaway for the DJI Action 4 or the DJI Mic 2, whichever one you're interested in is going to be available to you inside of the community. It's a winning thing. There's a whole leaderboard and stuff. Like getting involved, commenting, sharing, helping out with the group is the way that we're doing that. So I would love to have you over there. I'd love to just continue to grow the community like that. And once again, thank you so much for joining. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.